Welcome. If you guys were here yesterday, welcome again. We're glad to see you today. Si estuvieron aquí ayer, bienvenidos otra vez. Today we're gonna have a little bit of a meeting on just how to write a competitive grant proposal. But like I said, in the meantime, if we can put in the chat your name, your affiliation, and maybe let us know if you have an experience in writing a grant proposal. So en el chat, por favor, mientras damos el anuncio de justicia de lenguaje, si pueden poner su nombre, su afiliación y déjanos saber si tiene experiencia escribiendo una solicitud de subsidio or how much experience you have. Maybe you've written one or two, maybe you've never written a grant, right? Just let us know. So we're just going to get started with the language justice announcement while you guys put your information on the chat. All right, and now from here, I'm going to pass it over to Melinda to just kind of give us a little welcome.
Thanks, Diana. So welcome everyone to our Community Air Grants Workshop. I'm Melinda Dumasani, Community Air Grants Manager, and very pleased to see everyone here today. So thank you. And so this is our second of 3 workshops we're doing to support interested applicants in developing good projects and great proposals. So this aligns with our commitment highlighted in Blueprint 2.0 to provide more community air protection benefits to communities highly impacted by air pollution. So this is a record-breaking cycle as we have almost $16 million in funding to award. And it's the first time ever that we will have that much money to award in one cycle. So I'm going to leave you all on that good note and turn it back over to Diana to begin today's workshop. Diana.
Thank you, Melinda. So as you guys hear, there's a lot of money, so make sure you pay attention so you get all the money, right? So again, I'm just going to go over the agenda real quick. So we're going to have some general tips. This is the welcome and introduction portion, and then general tips. Then we'll have a little bit about starting the process, developing and writing your proposal, submitting your application, which is one of the biggest and I think the most important one, right? Considering and common mistakes, and discussion and questions. So we are going to have a little Q&A section for those of you that might have a little questions at the end, or maybe in the middle you have a question. But if you do, and you don't want to forget it, I tend to be that person that I forget what question I was thinking about. Put it in the chat and we'll try to answer them as fast as I can with our card members.
Thank you, Diana, and welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Trish Johnson. I work in the Community Air Grants program as the grant program lead. I'm in CARB's Office of Community Air Protection. Great, thank you. So I'm going to start with sharing some information that we prepared. Again, this is to get workshop participants to think about preparing a grant proposal and ask questions of us while we have this opportunity. So I'll start with the beginning here as far as getting started to prepare your proposal. We can't emphasize enough the importance of starting early, acting early, and planning well in advance of the grant deadline. Allow yourself plenty of time ahead of that deadline to get your application ready. Read the entire application package carefully and follow the instructions that you're given. We're holding this workshop now as we have a request for applications open through Friday, November 1st. For our program, we recommend reading through the request for applications and understanding the information we've provided, which includes program goals, project priorities, application parameters, and the scoring criteria. If you have questions, reach out to the grant program contact or refer to the application package. Assess the resources that are available to assist you in developing your proposal. Reach out to collaborators and partners early. Next slide. Here, we're going to start providing tips for developing a grant proposal. And a few tips are specific to the application that we currently have open. Make sure that you're in compliance with any conflict of interest requirements. Be aware of the scoring criteria that CARB will use to guide scoring and selection of projects. Follow the instructions and respond to the scoring criteria. Clearly align your project within the application priorities. Include a compelling description of the community benefits from the project. Next slide. In terms of grant application tips, we recommend providing clear roles and responsibilities for your project team members. As a courtesy, we recommend sharing the final submitted work plan with your project partners, who may also be providers of letters of support or letters of commitment. Ensure that your project is realistic and feasible, especially within the project timeframe. And use diagrams and figures to help visualize and support your proposal where appropriate. Next slide. Continuing on the theme of grant application tips, we recommend spelling out any acronyms that you use the first time that they appear. Edit your proposal, and when you're done, edit it again. And just to be safe, edit it one more time. Check and double check your spelling and grammar for a better proposal. Read and reread your application before you submit, which can be an element of editing your proposal as many times as possible. Ask others to review, as 2 sets of eyes are better than 1. Finally, research online, as there are many helpful grant writing resources available about preparing your proposal. Next slide. In the Community Air Grant request for applications, we recommend pursuing the SMARTY grant objective approach when writing your application. Ensure the project is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, timely, inclusive, and equitable, or SMARTY. For SMARTY goal setting, refer to the link shown on this slide and will be posted in the chat. This approach will assist in defining and communicating the intended outcomes, track progress, evaluate the project's impact, and advance equity. Next slide. Now I'm going to move into general tips when writing your proposal. We recommend following formatting guidelines in the application's instructions. In the Community Air Grant request for applications, we state applications must be legibly printed or typed double-sided on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, size page, with all pages numbered consecutively. The application must be a minimum of an 11-point font, and we recommend not including title pages to separate application sections. There are also formatting guidelines in Table 1 of the Community Air Grant request for applications, which is on pages 27 through 32 of the Community Air Grant request for applications. And I'll ask my colleagues to drop a link to the website where you can access that. That Table 1 contains specific information required for evaluation. So moving on, we recommend aligning your narrative with the selection criteria. This makes it easier for reviewers to evaluate your proposal. Pay careful attention to the language that you use. Be clear, concise, and specific. Justify your funding request through clearly articulated proposed project activities and check all budget figures for accuracy. Keep in mind that costs must be both reasonable and necessary. Next slide. When submitting your application, we mentioned this before and we'll re-emphasize it here. Proofread your proposal. Do not wait until the last minute to submit your application. We all know that things can fail us, especially at the last minute. If possible, save yourself some stress and aim to submit your application in advance of the deadline. Make certain that all required documents and signatures are included in your application package. And have a fresh pair of eyes read it before submission. With regards to the application submission, know the due date for the application that you're submitting for. So for the community air grants that I mentioned is open now. It's open for 1 more month from today until Friday, November 1st. Also know where and how to submit your application. So for the community air grants program, we require electronic submission sent to our program email address, which is airgrants@arb.ca.gov. And my colleagues will drop a link to that in the chat, and you can also email any questions you have about the request for applications or RFA there. Next slide. Some common mistakes are provided here. Common mistakes can include not starting early or waiting until the last minute to begin, not reading the application instructions thoroughly, not following the formatting guidelines, not addressing every element included in the scoring criteria or the requirements for submission. And another mistake can be submitting a proposal not tailored to the application or outside the scope. These mistakes can result in a loss of points. We hope that applicants can earn as many points as possible. So we wanted to highlight some common mistakes as discussion points for today's workshop and areas to avoid in the development of your application. Next slide. Some additional common mistakes are shown here and include not obtaining the required signatures on required forms, reaching out to project partners or supporters at the last minute. For LCIRP projects, again, this is specific to the community air grant request for applications that's open now for 1 more month, not submitting the required letter of commitment. Other common mistakes include failing to proofread your proposal and failing to submit the application by the deadline. Thank you. So now we're going to put it all together for developing your grant proposal. We recommend carefully following the instructions, being concise, proofreading, making sure your budget is accurate, submitting all required components of the application package, collaborating with partners, and we do not recommend exceeding the formatting requirements, including the maximum number of pages, including any ineligible costs in your budget, or submitting your application late.